So, you really want to learn to sing, or you want to improve your existing vocal skills, and you've rightly worked out that you really need the help of a professional to do this. Good for you. But how do you go about finding the right singing teacher for you? Well, my name is Eve Williams and I've been a singing teacher since 2005. I hold a Master of Music degree, but I also have studied the anatomy of voice, and that's very important for singing teachers to have the right professional qualifications to make sure that people's voices are basically safe in my hands. I've worked with every kind of voice. I've worked with recording artists who actually have quite high profile careers in all genres of music, particularly commercial pop, but also in classical music and music theatre. I've worked with students. I've worked with students who've had cancer of the voice and have had quite major surgery to their voice. I've worked with tiny children. My youngest student is 6 and my oldest student is 102, so every kind of voice. So I'm hopefully going to be able to guide you to finding the right singing teacher for you. We're going to talk about two things in that context. We're going to talk about what you need to look for in the teacher and what you need to be prepared to bring to the table yourself. So let's start off by talking about what you should look for in a teacher. The number one most important thing is that anyone teaching voice should be properly qualified in the anatomy of voice. They need to understand the physiology of the voice, because like any other form of physical activity, in singing, if you have bad form, if you're doing something incorrectly, you can sustain an injury to your voice. You can have some health problems with your voice, and you don't want that. So if the person's website or their videos on YouTube or however you discover them don't make it clear what kind of background they have in the anatomy of voice, just ask. A professional is going to be more than happy to answer you. So that's the first thing that you should look for. The second thing is also quite important, and that is, can this person help you meet your own individual goals? For example, if you want to be a commercial pop recording artist, there is no point in going to someone who puts people through classical grade exams. Realistically, are they going to be able to help you meet your goals? Do they have a track record in helping people meet goals like yours? And the easiest way to find that out is to ask for testimonials from their existing or previous students. Check the testimonials on their website, on their social media, see what other people have said. Like, what success are their students having, not just the success that they themselves have had as a singer. So another thing that is actually really important to look for in a singing teacher is listen to their speaking voice and make sure they have what's called clear tone. The first thing that we as singing teachers listen for when someone comes through the door and they're speaking to us is, do they have clear tone? In other words, when they speak, are their vocal folds coming completely together and producing a clear sound? If their voice sounds a bit like this and air is escaping when they're speaking, that means that the vocal folds are not coming completely together. And that is a sign that there could be something wrong with their voice, which means that they themselves have bad form, possibly, maybe not, could be something else, which they could pass on to you. So that is really important. Conversely, if you are thinking of having singing lessons yourself, record your voice on your phone. Does your voice sound at all breathy? Do you have any discomfort when you swallow? You need to make sure that your voice is healthy before you commence singing lessons. And if it's not, it's usually something that's really easily fixed. But if you have any of the things that I've just mentioned, then consult a doctor about it. Another thing that you yourself have to think of before you start singing lessons is, can you afford it? Because a lot of teachers will charge you if you just don't show up, because the number of people that just don't show up, or they decide with only half an hour to go, actually I can't afford this. Well, most singing teachers, like other music teachers, are self-employed and they don't have a salary coming in to support them. And if even 2 or 3 people every week just don't appear or change their minds at the last minute, that amounts to hundreds of pounds in a month, and no household could sustain that. So be sure that you can financially commit before you take singing lessons is something that I would say. If you can't afford a weekly lesson, some people come every other week, and if you do the practice, that's fine. I wouldn't recommend trying to learn from YouTube. There are some wonderful people on YouTube. I myself post singing exercises to YouTube, but if you learn on YouTube, there is no one monitoring you to see that you have good form. There's no one checking on your progress or directing you on what you should be learning next, because there basically is no sequence to learning on YouTube. And also, you don't really know how sound the practices of the singing teacher are, unless you already have a background in vocal pedagogy. Basically, people can have very flash videos, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they know what they're doing. So that is something to really think about. You can learn other ways apart from traditional lessons. There are many singing courses available online. I myself teach singing on Skillshare and Udemy and via my own website, where I have a membership program where you can have video and audio courses, but you also get up to 2 group lessons via Zoom every month, and you get a monthly check-in with me so that I can check where you're at, make sure your form is good, talk about what your goals are and how to achieve them. It's much, much cheaper than a weekly lesson. In my case, I charge £12.50 per half hour for children and people with disabilities, and £15 for adults. Musicians Union's rates in the UK are £32.50 per half hour, so that's kind of like the going rate for music lessons, whereas the online options range between £9 and £21 a month, so it's an awful lot cheaper. I know that sounds like a bit of a plug, but it's just, I think a lot of people who want to take lessons and eventually decide not to or have to give up, it's quite often on the grounds of cost, and there are ways around that. You could also have group lessons. I'm quite happy to teach 4 or 5 people in one go for the same price as it would cost me to teach one person, because it's the same amount of my time ultimately. So, you might be able to make a deal like that if you find somebody good. Teaching voice is not like teaching piano, but I do that too. And everybody starts by learning scales and going C, D, E, turn. Voice is much different than that. Everybody's different. Everybody who comes into me has a different voice, a different instrument, a different set of issues, and a different set of goals. For example, I might get a young boy whose voice is breaking, who wants to sing music theatre, and the way that I work with them is going to be completely different to the way I work with, say, somebody who's going through menopause and has issues with their voice as a result of changing hormones, or someone who wants to be an actual commercial singer and maybe get signed to a major label. Like you're just going to approach all those people differently. So being a singing teacher to me not only involves having the knowledge and the proper training to do it, but you need to have like actually quite sound people skills. Sometimes people are telling you like quite intimate stuff, and I've worked with a lot of people who've been traumatized and had things go on with them, or people who've just had some nasty little remark made to them, maybe when they were at school, or maybe by a teacher who just wasn't very good, and then they've thought that they were useless and they've like given up, and they come back to it later just for a little bit of feedback to try and work out how good they actually are and how far they can go with it. And that's like completely fine. So if you too would like to take singing lessons but you're really nervous, generally I hope we're okay people, so there's really no need to be afraid, and we've heard it all. There is no noise that it's possible for the human voice to make that I don't think I've heard. So you don't have to worry about anything coming in. I'm not going to judge any sound that you make. So if you have any questions about learning to sing, starting with singing or advancing with singing, or perhaps even aiming for a professional career in singing, feel free to ask some questions in the comments below or to get in touch with me.
My email address is info@evewilliamsmusic.com and my website is singinglessonsni.com.
And you'll also find online courses and different resources there to help you with your singing. So thanks so much for tuning into this video, and I'm really, really glad that you've decided to take lessons, and I hope it goes really well for you.